Welcome in. Game Time Decisions is live on a Tuesday night. I'm Kevin Walsh with you here on SportsGrid. 2 hours to go through tonight's card featuring some NBA, a lot of top 25 college basketball action, as well as some NHL to get to. But we begin this Tuesday night with breaking news in the association and a couple of pieces. We start with the news out of Milwaukee. Some stunning stuff here. Adrian Griffin fired after 43 games. That 30-13 record is no mistake. It is the second best record in the entire NBA. Look, this is a little complicated. The conversation around Milwaukee has not been overwhelmingly positive. The fact that they felt that Adrian Griffin wasn't the guy, I understood. A lot of people said, oh, this is very similar to David Blatt. If memory serves, Blatt was given more than 43 games before they made the move to Ty Lue. This is a lot that people, I feel, are pushing as Giannis's fault, which I don't know how that's going to land for Giannis. I know he's under contract. It's not about him being traded out. It's just about the vibes. And this decision, again, coming after 2 consecutive wins, I get it. It was against Detroit. They didn't cover in any game. All of a sudden, the betting world getting a little bit of shine here because the Bucks are atrocious against the spread. It's how people are lining up what Milwaukee has done and why, despite the 30-13 record, it is underneath expectation. But if you're going to make this move, you better have a guy stepping in that people are going to be confident in. The Cavs, when they got rid of Blatt, went to Ty Lue. The Milwaukee Bucks will likely be going to Doc Rivers. Great job, Milwaukee. Thank you. As somebody with Sixers futures, if you have Celtics futures, Heat futures, it is a great day for you. We will expand on this throughout our show. Our radio audience is live with us here on a Tuesday night. Sirius XM, channel 159. Kevin Walsh with you on Game Time Decisions. This is breaking news 1. Breaking news 2, Miami. They make a move. They bring in Terry Rozier. Kyle Lowry sent out in this trade, as well as a first-round pick that is protected lottery, but it could end up turning into an unprotected pick. Time will tell on that. On one end of it, good for Miami. Rozier could be a great piece for them, a legitimate, steady, pure point guard, pure and a legitimate one that they can rely on more than Kyle Lowry, but this team seemingly had Bradley Beal in the bag. Passed on him. Went for Damian Lillard. Struck out. Rozier is a consolation prize. That is the reality of this situation. But for Miami, the reality is just figure out the seeding and go from there. If they're matched up with Boston, Milwaukee, Philly, the Knicks, it doesn't matter. The Heat are going to feel like they have a chance. People who have futures on them will feel like they have a chance. And adding a player like Rozier for sending out Kyle Lowry is only going to add some confidence to people with Miami Heat tickets in the market. Let's pull back now. Again, we'll expand on these. Coach James Young will be here in about 40 minutes to go through some of this. But you look at the NBA's MVP award. 70 last night for Joel Embiid. We were live throughout the first quarter where Embiid had 24 points. At the end of the first quarter, his live player prop was 49.5. He abused that number. Embiid sits at plus 130 to win the award. Embiid would be significantly shorter to win this award if not for the league's 65-game minimum rule dominating, not dominating, but being a large part of this conversation. That rule, abysmal. Told you at the time there are people who still don't understand just how awful that rule is. I'll explain maybe a bit later. Now isn't the time. A question becomes, with Embiid obviously being well aware that if he hits his games, this award looks to be his, will Embiid now ensure he hits the games? The Embiid plus 130 ticket is admittedly tempting at this point in time, currently averaging the most points per 36 minutes in a single season in NBA history. It is the first time ever there's something to do with points, and the leader on the board is not Wilt Chamberlain. It is remarkable, again, what we have seen out of JoJo this season. If you look at the NBA's title odds right now and just kind of where things are rounding up at this moment, Boston remains a very strong favorite to win the NBA championship. This is something we talked about with the Celtics, though, before their game against Denver. There's really no value on that number for Boston. It can only get worse through injury. There is no big trade coming for that basketball team. Milwaukee, though, just had a significant shakeup here. Boston won't be having one of that caliber. Joe Mazzulla is going to be sat in charge the entire time. So you know that is where that will look for the NBA championship odds. Philly's number, I think people will continue to be interested in with the way that Joel Embiid is playing. If we could move over to the NBA slate tonight here, which has only a handful of games on a Tuesday. The late one, Lakers-Clippers, will not feature LeBron James. So that means Anthony Davis will be in the line of sight for a lot of people, and some interest around what he can do on a points prop at 27.5. Indiana hosts the Denver Nuggets without Tyrese Halliburton. Looks like he rushed back to play with Pascal, and that was a huge mistake. We'll talk more about Siakam in a moment, but Halliburton now going to be out for at least the next week of hoops here for Indiana. We got a little inter-city matchup with the Knicks and the Nets. Utah goes to New Orleans, and then OKC Portland. Last time we saw that, the Thunder won that game by 60+. We'll see how Portland rebounds tonight, catching 13.5 points in that game. I want to jump over to the college basketball slate here tonight. A lot of top 25 action, some key teams on the road. Kentucky goes to South Carolina. Wisconsin goes to Minnesota. You do have Purdue hosting Michigan, laying a huge number in that game, and OU hosting Texas, getting a lot of line movement. The head matchup, though, between a pair of top 25 teams is Houston and BYU. The Cougs, a 2.5-point favorite. Against the other Cougs. That was not even intentional there. But Houston's laying 2.5. That total is 135.5. The injury report tonight for BYU. The starting lineup, some anticipation. I'm going to be involved in this game, though, and trust that there's some value out here involving one of BYU's stars. We will get into that momentarily. A quick look at your college basketball national championship market here. We've seen the conversation on UConn start to grow more positively, but they've still not been able to break through off Purdue in this number. Plus 750 on the Boilermakers. UConn and Houston at 10-1, 11 on Arizona. Kentucky's getting a lot of love in this market at 14-1, which rounds out that top five. Shout out Auburn and Alabama, both two teams that I was invested in preseason with solid starts, no doubt. Quick pick here, Pascal Siakam over 31.5 points, rebounds, and assists. He's not hit this yet as a Pacer. That's where the value comes in. Consistent cash as a Raptor. No Halliburton back home. A lot of pace, a lot of Pascal tonight for Indiana. We get the full card next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Best games of the year, Warren, on Sunday night, as the Chiefs are now headed back to a sixth championship game. An extremely fun, clean game, and then the hijinks ensue.
And I thought it was just irresponsible for him to take that deep shot into the end zone. I talked a lot about it on X. I thought that they should have hit that underneath route to Diggs. He was wide open. It would have been easily a first down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
Well, look at the Heisman Trophy
The early
race
line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Pharrell
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
I have
decisions.
no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
Late
good betting.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid.
We did.
Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Where to begin? It is game time decisions on a Tuesday night. I'm Kevin Walsh. We've got 4 picks in the NBA, 2 college. I think I'm going to go. Let's go with the college first. Let's do the college here. We start with the big game tonight, which is BYU and Houston in the Big 12. So there's a lot of intrigue around, for me at least, with BYU and the starting lineup. They've been dealing with some injuries. Trevor Neal has been one of their best players this season. He, though, missed a pair, or missed actually just the Iowa State game. They did play very well, scored 87 against the Cyclones, which I do think is key because Houston, the number 1 defense in college basketball right now via Ken Pom, Iowa State's 3rd. So BYU was playing a high-level defense. I mean, and that is true when you have to step up inside this Big 12. They've also had games against UCF, Cincinnati, San Diego State early season. So there are reps for this BYU team. No team as good and as slow as Houston. That largely doesn't even really exist. But for BYU, the expectation is Waterman remains out, but Neal will play. The question is, will he start? He came off of the bench in the last games and played only 17 minutes against Texas Tech. Went 2 for 4 from the field. It was 2 for 4 from 3 and scored just 6 points. I am playing his over 9.5 points here on, I don't know if a hunch, but here's how it sets up. Trevor Neal, prior to Big 12 play, is playing less than 25 minutes a game. Then we get into Big 12 play, 29 minutes against Cincinnati, 27 points. 31 minutes against Baylor, 15 points. 34 minutes against Central Florida, 14 points. So, for Neal, just like with every other college team, the tougher the competition, the more you ask out of your best players, the more the minutes rise. So I think the Neal points prop in Big 12 play should be settling around 14.5, 15.5, right, give or take somewhere in that range. Why do we get 9.5 tonight? It's kind of a bit of everything. It's, well, last game he was injured, only played 17 minutes, scored 6, and, they're playing Houston. Well, Neal, again, that game on a Saturday, I think can, at minimum, get back up to about 25 minutes here tonight. I think he can get back into the starting lineup. This is a huge game for the Cougs, and if he does and I get 25 minutes, well, on the year, he's averaging 12.7 points per game in 25 minutes. So I think he can still get through this number, no problem. But if I get Trevor Neal tonight, there's no alts available, otherwise I would be tempted. But if I get Neal tonight to play this 30-plus mark, which he basically does in every Big 12 game, then he goes for 15, 18, could get hot from beyond the arc. Trevor Neal this season at home is shooting nearly 50% from three. Give me Trevor Neal over the 9.5 points tonight against Houston. Xavier Creighton, I'm on Desmond Cloud over 22.5 PRA. So this is a spot for Desmond where the Creighton caliber of defense pushes me towards this over, towards this prop without much concern. He is on an absolute tear. His last 4 games, 19-5-9, 26-3-4, 21-5-2, 15-6-5. That is an average of 30 points, rebounds, and assists. 2 of those games are Georgetown Butler. Okay, maybe that doesn't move the needle. At Providence, a high-ranking defense in efficiency, and then playing UConn, and we obviously know that that is the one of the very best teams in college basketball. So a lot of confidence in what he's doing recently. But what have we seen in his 3 games against top 20 defenses outside of the Big Ten? He played Purdue, 15-3-6. That's a winning wager. Against Cincinnati, 11-6-6. That is a winning wager. Here's the only loss that he has had against a top 20 defense. Houston, he had 14-5-2. That is 21 PRA. In that game, he shot 3 of 13 from the field, 0 of 5 from 3, and missed 4 free throws. And he lost it by 2. And it's the best defense in college basketball, whose totals are typically in the low 130s, if not underneath that. The number tonight against Creighton's a $148.5. Love Desmond Cloud here over the 22.5 PRA. Let's go to the NBA. We mentioned already the Pascal number, averaged around 34 PRA while he was with Toronto. So you now step into this spot, minus Halliburton, at home. This number's not moved from his debut game or even the game against Phoenix. I think that's a mistake here. I like Pascal Siakam. I also like Julius Randle. You know, Julius had a really slow start to this season. So when I was trying to evaluate what we got out of Randle in bounce-back spots, I don't want to remove that, but so last game out, he goes under 20, right? What we've seen from him is 4 straight times where he went under 20 in the game before. The next game he goes for 25 plus. Honestly, usually it's around 30 plus here. Randall's been on a scoring tear for the Knicks, and typically he steps up at the Barclays Center. He'll do it tonight coming off of a game where he did not score a ton. Had a triple-double. Laid low. He'll step up at the Barclays Center tonight. I'm on the over of 233 Thunder's Blazers. So the last time they play, we saw OKC win by roughly 1 billion points. And you get the same spread, but they dropped the total by 4.5. Feels like a mistake to me. I think this is a nice spot for both of these offenses to step up. There has to be a level of motivation and pride on the Portland side. And if that's going to come, it's going to come on the offensive side. In no world are the Blazers in that locker room right now before the game saying, we need to step up and lock down SGA. Guess what? That's not happening. Okay? They're going to have to pack a punch offensively. And we know the Thunder will. The Thunder just played a game against the number 1 defense in the NBA, in the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they won the game, by the way, 102-97. It's a step-up spot on the road. They made it happen. This is a bit more lackluster. The offense flows nicely. Maybe the defense a little bit leaves some leeway for Portland here. I think there's value on the 233. Last number for me, and I want to see where this number is right now because it admittedly looks stunningly low at last look, which is Anthony Davis's over 27.5 points. It's one of those things at times, and I don't really get this. The number has not moved at all, and in fact, the juice has kind of gone the other direction. So AD has played in 4 games without LeBron. 30 plus in 3 out of the 4. The lone exception against Utah, he shot 5 for 21. What are the books banking on? This being a blowout? Vika Zubac's not even healthy. What are we doing here? Who is stopping AD? Nobody. It doesn't make much of any sense. So if this bet loses tonight because AD shoots 25% from the field, then okay, so be it. Congrats. The books did a good job projecting that. If I thought, though, AD might only play 26 minutes, this could be an absolute route burial. Well, that's not what these games have looked like, really, for the Lakers when AD plays and LeBron doesn't. They've actually done a decent job hanging around the number or winning games outright. We've seen that from this team I also like that AD's coming off of a low-scoring game against Portland. He only played 26 minutes, only had 14 points on 4 of 7 shooting. It was a defer game. D'Angelo Russell went off, and LeBron did his thing, so that's fine. This is not a defer game here. I expect AD to step up on this 27.5 points prop. I will say, I've noticed tonight there's a lot of AD, Kawhi Leonard first quarter stuff out there. They both play the full 12 minutes usually. I don't know, though. I did the Embiid thing last night, and admittedly, while it obviously worked incredibly with the 24 first quarter points, it's a little stressful at times. A little bit. So I may let it go. I will say the 4 games that AD's played without LeBron are 4-0 to the over. Also, just put eyes on this PG 3-point prop there. Whether you want to use a dumbed-down number for a parlay or you just want to play as over 3.5 straight. He missed this last game out, which snapped an 8-game streak, which is outrageous, of 4+ made threes. That's a ton. Paul George is having himself a nice season. It is a shame it'll all come crashing down when inevitably here Kawhi gets injured. Tom Vecchio up next right here on Game Time Decisions.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
One of the best games of the year, Warren, on Sunday night, as the Chiefs are now headed back to a 6th championship game. An extremely fun, clean game, and then the hijinks ensue.
And I thought it was just irresponsible for him to take that deep shot into the end zone. I talked a lot about it on X. I thought that they should have hit that underneath route to Diggs. He was wide open. It would have been easily a first down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home-road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
Well, look at the Heisman Trophy.
The early line.
And what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Pharrell
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
You
decisions.
have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was good
Late
betting.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid.
We did.
Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back right here. It's Game Time Decisions. Kevin Walsh joined by Tom Vecchio. He's starting a storm on the other side of these commercials. What's going on, Tom?
I'm doing great. Yeah, we little lively discussion during the commercial break about some MLB new Hall of Famers and what they may or may not have done in their career. But that is for a different time. I don't want to take up the whole segment with that talk. We got a fun slate of NHL, fun slate of NBA. A lot going on when it comes to NBA trades, coaches getting fired. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, let's what do we dive into first here? You want to get into the ice quick? You got a goal scorer for us on the NHL tonight?
Yeah, let's do that super quick. Brady Tkachuk for the Ottawa Senators to score a goal, plus 125. This matchup tonight is going to be all about the offense. There's absolutely no defense being played between Ottawa and the Canadiens tonight. Over the last 2 weeks, both teams are in the bottom four of the league for the most goals allowed per 6 minutes in 5v5 situations. Surprisingly, over that same time, the Senators lead the league with 3.93 goals scored per 60 minutes. That's the best in the NHL, despite being a bottom 10 team overall. They're scoring at an incredible clip right now. And Brady Tkachuk only has 1 goal over his last 4 games. He's their primary shot taker. He has nearly 60 more shots than the next highest player on the team. The team's scoring all these goals, yet he's not really involved. And at plus 125 with a matchup that has a 6.5 over-under with like minus 140 on the over, this really makes sense.
Yeah. So I love it. I want to ask you something, because this happens. I see a market and then I get slightly obsessed with it, especially if it's a market where I know I don't actually have the answer, but it's the Hart Trophy. So on FanDuel, they're hanging Nathan McKinnon versus the field. McKinnon is plus 120. The field is minus 150. Why this is so interesting is Embiid, right, is plus 130. What we can maybe get into that a little bit to win the award. If they right now hung the field at, let's just call it, maybe minus 170, I think a lot of people would bet the field and know you win the bet if he misses the games, and obviously it's a different situation. But I'm curious, with McKinnon being plus 120, right, McDavid and Kucherov make up 4 of the last 7 MVPs, McDavid being 3 of them, as the other guys that are underneath, 4-1 here. Is the field at minus 150 good enough to play?
I honestly think it might be. Like, especially if Austin Matthews for the Toronto Maple Leafs, like he could hit 60 goals again. He could even hit more than that. And McDavid could continue to do his thing. And Kucherov's having an amazing year. Like, we're going to have multiple players finish with like 120 to 140 some odd points. So we're going to be splitting hairs at a certain point between, this guy had 50 goals and this many points. This guy didn't have many goals, but he had more points. Minus 150 isn't that bad. I would like to see it a little bit closer, but what McKinnon's doing right now is unbelievable, and it's kind of like his time to win that award.
Yeah, I again, and look, it's a great breakdown, but it's just one of those things. Maybe I'm thinking too much about Embiid. It's different sports, markets, everything. But it's just if you hung Embiid right now, because Embiid's plus 130, Tom. I'm curious what you think, because obviously we're getting some NBA props. What do you think right now about Embiid? Scored 70 last night, currently sitting at plus 130 to win league MVP.
Right now, if he continues on this pace, I think it's his award to lose. And the problem I'm having where, I was big on SGA coming into the year, and SGA is having a great year. There's absolutely not enough that can be said about him and what the Thunder have done overall. The problem is, there's not enough, flagpole events for SGA where, he needs to have these massive games where he has 50 in a triple-double. He has 40 in a triple-double. He needs to start piling up these milestone games that Embiid really does have, and not a whole lot of other players have. So when we're looking at Luka and we're looking at Antetokounmpo and we're looking at these odds, these players are all going to average close to triple-doubles, but if they don't have these massive milestone games, and Embiid's being compared to Elgin Baylor, when his name is along those and he's doing it at a consistent rate and playing the games, it's his award to lose at a certain point.
Yeah, I think to your point, if no one's going to have a moment, and being at 70, right? I mean, how many guys are going to score 60 again? And I know it's incredible that on the same night, Kat did have 62. He managed to have it in a loss where he's being subbed out for defense. I don't know. That's one of those things I think Finch, who's really mad at his own players, needs to take more ownership of the situation. Don't sub out a guy who has 62 for offense, defense. Just the whole thing was a mess. the guy, when you talk value in this market, Tom, we're at a point in the year where I can convince you, oh, man, there's great value on Kawhi, 150, but it's irrelevant if you're not going to have any potential to cash in. The MVP number that is very interesting to me is actually Tatum's 48-1, because I don't know if anybody's going to outstat Embiid or Jokic. Tatum just has, what if they win 68 games? And then people just give it to a Boston Celtic.
Yeah, I have a future on Tatum already since the beginning of the year. It's at like, I don't know, it's at 9-1, 10-1, 11-1. It's like, it's not super long by any means, but, you know, part of my process coming in was like, all right, they're going to be the number 1 or number 2 seed. It's going to be a toss-up between Jokic or Embiid. We know that, but Tatum's also sitting here as he was just last year, and they're going to be the best team potentially in a very tough conference. I'm going to say it's a little bit tougher, at least at the top tier. And why not give it to him based on efficiency and what he does overall? If everyone has a little bit of voter fatigue for Embiid and Jokic over the past 3-4 seasons, Tatum is also a very viable candidate. So if Tatum cashes, I'll be super happy with that.
Yeah, again, 48-1. I think you have to find pathways for guys. Like, what's the SGA pathway? I think the Thunder need to probably have the best record in the West. And at worst, the second best record in the West, right? But we know the Celtics are going to have the NBA's best record. Like, that is basically already written in stone at this point. If you look, their live win total, it's 63.5. It has dropped a bounce from, I think it was like 65.5 a few days ago, but still, this team's been playing great. Let's get some of your picks on the board here, Tom. You're also backing Julius Randle tonight?
Yeah, I heard you in the previous segment about Randle. More importantly, looking back at his last 3 games, 13 and 17 field goal attempts, that's not what Julius Randle should be at. Prior to that, over this 10-game stretch, he's at 21, 22, 23. Like, that's really where he should be. And the Nets right now are a complete mess on defense. They're, 4 and 16 over the last 20 games or whatever it is. Absolutely playing no defense. Isaiah Hartenstein is out tonight. I think, and Jericho Sims, I'm not sure what to make of him yet as a player, but the pathway to the Knicks having a good game and ultimately winning this game is what they realistically is going to happen. Is Randle having, I'm going to say, close to a triple-double. He's going to drop, 30 and 10 or whatever and add in 6 assists. And it's going to be, I'd say, a pretty easy path for him tonight.
Yeah, it's one of those things, as somebody who's already on the points, I'm wondering if I now need to just take a piece of the PRA, right? Because if I didn't get to 30, which I do by betting his 25+, can he get, the rest on rebounds and assists? Most likely. Jazz Pels is a game I'm actually not involved with tonight, but you are. What are you looking for here?
I think we're going to see a lot of scoring in this game. I'm really optimistic. I like Lauri Markkanen over 2.5 threes. It's sitting at -142, so people got to take that for what it is. But he's hit at least 2 threes in 10 straight games. He's often pushing to 8, 9, 10 3-point attempts, that is.
Yeah.
And so I like him over 2.5, -142. His 4+ threes is at +190. The Pelicans, they're on 13.5 threes per game from their opponents. That's the 9th most in the NBA. So I like the pace in this game. I like the over-under. His usage is great. His minutes are great. And the 3-point attempts really pile up. And if they're going to be, playing catch a little bit, the Pels are a solid team. He's going to be taking those shots every single night, 8, 9, 10 3-point attempts. So a minimum of 2 for Markkanen in 10 straight games. Him hitting 4, I think, is realistic in this game environment.
Yeah, look, Lowry's obviously been a big part of this team turning it around. We'll see if that continues, but this is a guy that West maybe be a bit too crowded for him to be an all-star this year, but he's going to be in that conversation, and it makes the Jazz an interesting team night to night. A curious question for you quickly, Tom, because I probably won't get the chance to talk to you again a little bit later in the week. NFL right now, those conference games are set, Chiefs, Ravens, as well as Lions, Niners. Has anything jumped out to you yet from those 2 games?
Yeah, I talked on the early line with Ben and Donnie about Odell Beckham. I like his prop. It's only 25.5. I might have lowered it. You can find some places a little bit lower. He's got a 14.6 ADOT this season, averages at the target, which is the highest on the Ravens. And I'm expecting at least a little bit of pressure on Lamar. I think they'll be stacking the box a little bit. Especially if Mark Andrews is back. I think the defense is going to be worried elsewhere, and OBJ can get that done in 1 or 2 catches. And then Brandon Ayuk over 5.5 receptions. It's at +102 or +105, whatever it might be, wherever you can find it. listen, if Debo's not fully healthy and or he's not good to go, Ayuk is going to eat this week against the Lions. We saw it with Puka Nacua in the first round of the playoffs. We saw it with Mike Evans last week. This is a big Brandon Ayuk week for the 49ers.
Yeah, I kind of went back, Tom, and we did this on Sunday. 10 consecutive, so now 11 consecutive games. What number one wide receivers have done to this team is unimaginable. I actually hope Debo plays. Bring the Ayuk numbers down. He goes through every single one of them still. I would say, here's my only thing I would say on the Ayuk bet. Great. Also bet the touchdown. Also bet the yards. Also bet the long reception. Also bet his alts. Also bet him in bet it all, Tom. Bet it all with Brandon Ayuk.
That was my take for Mike Evans, and he hit the over on his receptions in the first half. And play with that high of a target share against that defense is going to go for 100 plus.
100%. Great breakdown. As always, Tom, wish you the best of luck. Appreciate you stopping by here on a Tuesday night on Game Time Decisions. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me.
All right, great stuff as always there. Coming up next, Coach James Young going to get his picks tonight. NBA, college, also some of that breaking NBA news. We're live right here on a Tuesday night on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
One of the best games of the year, Warren, on Sunday night, as the Chiefs are now headed back to a sixth championship game, an extremely fun, clean game, and then the hijinks ensue.
And I thought it was just irresponsible for him to take that deep shot into the end zone. I talked a lot about it on X. I thought that they should have hit that underneath route to Diggs. He was wide open. It would have been easily a first down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with one touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
Well, look at the Heisman Trophy.
The early line.
And what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Pharrell,
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
I
decisions.
have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took them
time.
yard for a grand slam.
In the bottom of the fourth inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
late
good betting.
night.
We waited for the 1.5. We got paid.
We
for
did.
information. Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live right here. It's Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh, now joined by Coach James Young. JY, happy to have you. It's been a busy Tuesday in the association.
Hey, good evening, K-Dub. Good evening to the GTD audience. Yeah, it's been a little bit crazy, but one thing is for sure. I do remember yesterday when we were on air together, JoJo had about 25, and K-Dub and I said he's going to get 50. Little did I know I called K-Dub in the third quarter, and dude had 56 already. Shout out to JoJo Embiid. What an unbelievable performance. I said it, K-Dub. Best offensive game for a center in the history of the NBA in regards to all the different ways he could score. No one has done it better than JoJo.
Best scoring offensive big ever?
Pick and roll, pick and pop, shoot the three, off the bounce, transition, point forward. He done all boards.
Okay, so this is really interesting. But now, so I let DRS off the hook because, but he's not the best offensive big in the NBA right now. He's not better offensively than Jokic is.
I would say right now, I think, listen, Jokic gets, you got to understand this. The usage rate, how Jokic is used, is different than Embiid's, right? In regards to, like, Jokic has the ball. Like, they got other guys that can score the ball. They don't trust Maxey. They don't trust Maxey a lot more. And then you got to realize in the past, he's played with Harden. I actually think that JoJo's game, like, I think he's got a better low post game than Jokic, right? The three-point shot is eerie close. I think off the bounce in transition, he's more athletic. I actually think it's very close, but I really think that JoJo is a better overall skilled center than Jokic. It's close, but I would take JoJo.
I don't know. Jokic, I mean, the guy is like top 3 in the NBA in assists per game. Now, I understand Embiid is presently averaging 35, but yeah, I don't know. It's still Jokic in that respect. But Embiid obviously was fantastic.
Yeah. Go real quick, because I know we have to get to stuff, but I also think the fact that I think Joel Embiid's assists are up, I think 2 to 2.5 assists per game this year over his career because there's no Harden. I really think if Joel Embiid wanted to, could Joel Embiid average a triple-double, bring his points down to, let's say, 24, 25, and get you 9 assists a game?
No.
Kevin, I think he can do it if he had the ball. If you put the ball at the pinch post, some of those passes he threw last night, the one pass he threw behind his back and to cut Oubre on the baseline between 2 defenders, that was phenomenal. And I'm not disrespecting Jokic. I'm just saying I think Joel Embiid could average more assists per game if he was used in that way.
I don't want to now just do this thing where if he just wanted to be Jokic, he could be Jokic. I don't know. But again, like, I don't think Jokic could just be Embiid. It's all good. Embiid had a great game. It's all good. Let's do the picks, JY, then we can kind of zoom out on some of the big picture stuff because people always want the picks. And the Dayton-LaSalle game is coming up soon. What do you like on the college side?
I'm going to go with the Dayton Flyers minus 8.5 on the road in Philadelphia versus LaSalle. LaSalle team has lost 4 straight games. Dayton is the best team in the A-10. They score at will. And I think about this, folks. The A-10 this year, Kevin, I don't know if it's a 2-team league in regards to bids. They could be 1. So when you're that team, you can't slip up against teams. You got to blow out teams that you're way better in. Dayton, way better than LaSalle. Give me the Dayton Flyers. Anthony Grant's done a great job with this team, minus 8.5.
All right, let's keep it going here, JY, because there's that game's actually underway now, but maybe you can kind of jump in and still grab that number. We've got Duke against Louisville. Blue Devils lost an ugly one at home to Pitt. You think they bounce back?
I kind of look at this as, and even if Kansas didn't cover, I just look at this Duke team that should be in a bad mood. I hate Duke. So for me taking Duke, that tells you what I think. Louisville's terrible. And the fact that it's a bounce back spot in an embarrassing home, embarrassing. Losing to Pitt, you haven't lost at home since 79 to them. This is a big spot for Duke. They get rolling, not even close. It's 13.5. I think they win by 20 plus. Easy.
Look, Louisville is obviously not very good. I feel a lot of times, though, they've been in these games against the elite of college. A lot of points, total 149.5 in that game, would look towards the over. Kentucky, one of the very best over teams in all of college basketball, is on the road in the SEC tonight against a 15-3 South Carolina team, JY.
Yeah, 15-3 South Carolina team that has played relatively well. They haven't played a lot of the heavyweights yet in the SEC, so this will be a huge test for them. I just went with the team total of Kentucky over 79.5 points. This is the Kentucky team that scored 80+ 9 straight games. We've talked about it with Reeves and Dillingham and obviously DJ starting to play better. That's part of it. Bradshaw. They got too many dudes. And this is a Cal team that he can just run guys at you until he's got the guys that's making it work. And when he goes to the bench and he brings the guys like Dillingham off the bench, they're better than anybody on the other side. I don't know if they covered a spread. I just know, Kevin, that they could score. Kentucky over 79.5 points tonight.
I'm excited to see what Big Z has for an encore performance. Was awesome in that debut against the Georgia Bulldogs. JYOU at home tonight against Texas. This number's been moving around a little bit, 5 and 5.5, 4, 4.5, a little all over the place here. What do you think about the Sooners and the Longhorns?
I think the Sooners are the Longhorns are not very good on the road. I know they just got a good win at Baylor, home versus Baylor, 75-73. And they had their loss to Central Florida. They lost to West Virginia. They had a close game at Cincinnati. I think Oklahoma's really, really good at home. And they had a good win against Cincinnati. I think they're the better team. I'm starting to worry about Rodney Terry a little bit. He got worried about the horns down with their last loss. I think that was to Central Florida or one of the teams they got all upset about. I just think
Central
Oklahoma
Florida.
really good at home. I'm going to go with Oklahoma minus a 4.5 in Norman.
I will say, listen, I thought, he kind of lost the plot, yelling at the players. I don't think he should have apologized, though. Double down.
Oh, hell no.
You know what?
You yell at someone. Listen, as a coach, you yell at it, you just own it. You own it, you double down on it, you keep it. When you go back the other way, you look softer than a roll of Charmin. No offense. I'm sorry, Rodney Terry. You're a good guy, though.
All right, Pacers Nuggets here. Pacers Nuggets. I can't with you
like the roll of Charmin? You like the softer than the roll of Charmin comment?
I don't know, man. You're just out of your mind sometimes. What do you think here with the Nuggets and the Pacers?
I am going to go with Michael Porter Jr. to go over 16.5 points tonight. This should be a game that should be a lot of points. Michael Porter Jr. should excel in this game in regards to the fact that there will be points there. Listen, he's gone over, and I do believe 4 of his last 5 games. The pace, the fact that they give up a lot of threes, and the fact that the last 3 games he's gone 17 plus. Michael Porter Jr. over 16.5 points tonight for the Nuggets.
All right, there we go. Now let's zoom out. The Bucks. Look, I'll let you start, JY. I'll let you start. What have you made of today's decision by Milwaukee to move on from Adrian Griffin?
Giannis runs the show. It's very obvious. If you think about it, folks, they got rid of Mike Budenholzer, and Kevin and I both have talked about the issues with Budenholzer. So when you go and you are close to winning a championship, right? So two of the top 3 guys that you're interviewing are Adrian Griffin and Nick Nurse. One guy's one of the 5 best coaches in the NBA, has an NBA title. Another guy's never been the head coach. So what do? You go and you hire Adrian Griffin. Then you go and hire Terry Stotts as an experienced assistant because Kevin and I have talked about it. You need to have some kind of experience on the bench. Look what happened with Joe Mazzulla last year, so on and so forth. They're bringing Terry Stotts. Here comes Dane. There goes Stotts. Stotts is gone. Oh, like 2 weeks later, he's gone. This team is being run by Giannis. Giannis is getting whatever the hell he wants. And I'm going to say this, folks, and maybe this is me as a coach saying this. At some point, you have to look in the mirror of your players, particularly your best player, and say, maybe this is on you. So what are we going to do now, Milwaukee? You're going to go hire Doc Rivers? Like that is the solution to this. Is go get Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers, who could have won with the Clippers, who could have won with the Sixers, is going to go and save the day in Milwaukee. Lord have mercy. I pray to God that the Sixers play the Bucks in the playoffs, and I will run to the window and put everything I have on Philadelphia. Because Doc is not the answer, and now Giannis has to take ownership for what he did in Milwaukee. And the last thing, Giannis, how about this, bro? You want to be the best player in the world? Because now I just said it. I think Joel Embiid's the best player in the world. Why don't you do this, brother? Let me see you start to guard the best player. Let me see you guard Jimmy Butler. Let me see you guard Tyrese Halliburton. Let me see you step up to the plate and not hide. Let Jalen Brunson drop a 50-piece on you, 40-some-odd points on around Christmas. Let me see you step up, Giannis, because right now there's a lot of bad that should be going towards Giannis's way, because this is why this is all going down in Milwaukee.
Well, so for me, Coach, they are 30-13, and the idea is that their record is still that because of how talented the players are. And I think to some degree that is true. Look, Giannis is still giving this team 30, 10, and 7 on a nightly basis. I do think things are a little up and down. This has been so bizarre to watch play out to a degree that I almost wonder if maybe Giannis was not fully on board with the decision to bring in Adrian Griffin, because I think there are a lot of people who feel that things with Milwaukee have not been smooth despite their record, right? This is where betting actually comes in and helps people with the fact that this is the third worst ATS team in basketball. Yes, they beat the Pistons twice. They didn't look good in those 2 games. But I think that if Giannis felt Griffin was truly his guy, he would be defending him in this scenario, not as much pushing him out. What is more surprising to me, though, a lot of people have said, well, this is just like David Blatt. David Blatt was given a full season, went to the NBA Finals, and was 30-11, and then was moved on from. And rightfully so. The Cavs won the title that year, and Ty Lue has turned into one of the best coaches in the league. Adrian Griffin wasn't even given a season. So I think there has to be a part of this is Milwaukee knew they could very easily bring Doc in. And to that, I say, thanks. Thank you. Thank you for eliminating Milwaukee from any legitimate conversation here. I won't be betting this team. And if you're the Indiana Pacers, you can't wait for that matchup. You'll have a massive coach advantage with Rick Carlisle. If you're the Heat, you almost might ask Milwaukee if they'd like to swap, because you know for a fact that Spoelstra will clown Doc Rivers. No problem. Nurse is better. I mean, okay, fine, you can draw up Joe Mazzulla, except Joe Mazzulla managed to pull a 3-2 comeback against that guy, and nobody thinks Joe Mazzulla can coach a bit. So Milwaukee doing all of this for Doc Rivers is an ugly scene here that I can't support. JY will be back in a little bit here. We'll get you a best bet on the other side.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
best games of the year, Warren, on Sunday night as the Chiefs are now headed back to a 6th championship game. An extremely fun, clean game, and then the hijinks ensue.
And I thought it was just irresponsible for him to take that deep shot into the end zone. I talked a lot about it on X. I thought that they should have hit that underneath route to Diggs. He was wide open. It would have been easily a first down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy
The early
race
line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon, not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Pharrell,
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
I have
decisions.
no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
Late
competitive.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid
We
for
did.
patient, did like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting, ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live right here at SportsGrid for you on a Tuesday night. Game time decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Anthony Davis, if I had to narrow it down for the NBA tonight, would be my favorite bet over the 27.5 points here. In 3 out of 4 games with LeBron out, he's gone for 30+. And the lone exception, he shot 5 for 21 in the game. If we get 20% from the field from AD, and that's why we lose, so be it. He did, by the way, have a triple-double in that game. You could play his PRA tonight. I think it would make a ton of sense if you wanted. But I'm going to go with the points here of 27.5 for AD. Against the Clippers, it's all him. And the Clippers, I know there's always this idea that they're great both sides, but this, to me, comes off right now far more like an offensive team. I wouldn't mind getting the over involved here for this game. That total right now for when we see the Embiid, no LeBron, AD, no LeBron games, 4-0 towards the over. So keep your eyes on that. I will also mention with my Pascal Siakam play, that's going to be coming up, the 31.5 PRA. Do not be scared of that number tonight. I think he kind of gets back to his ways in Toronto. Plus, with the absence of Tyrese Halliburton, I don't think this number's adjusted enough. This is what it was for Pascal when he played with Halliburton against Portland. They moved it up a bounce against Phoenix. He didn't shoot it very well. At home tonight, first game as a Pacer in Indiana. I think you see Pascal really step up and get through that 31.5 PRA. None of my college picks start at 7, but the ranked action starting at 7 o'clock is Kentucky, laying 5.5 against South Carolina on the road. Wisconsin laying 2.5 against Minnesota on the road. Oklahoma is going to lay 4.5 at home to Texas. And then Duke laying 14.5 points against Louisville. The looks for me in that game would be an over in the Duke-Louisville game. OU laying the number. Minnesota-Wisconsin's a real watch-out spot. That number is atrocious. Wisconsin should be laying, I think, at least closer to 5 probably in this game. But we know what it looks like when these ranked teams go on the road. It's a dangerous spot. Kentucky tonight, again, really excited to see what we get at a Big Z here. We'll reset, re-rack, hour 2 coming up. Back right here to SportsGrid's Game Time Decisions on a Tuesday night. Kevin Walsh with you. And we are going to throw it over to Davis Maddock. Got to give him some credit. Yesterday on the same game parlay, went with the Celtics and the under in their game against the Mavs. Was able to cash that number at better than 2-1. He goes nearly 4-1 today in the game between the Thunder and the Blazers. Here's Davis Maddock's same game parlay.
All right, guys, we are back after a win last night, running out another NBA same-game parlay on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Last night, we had a great game in the association. Now we are going to focus on a not-so-great game in the association. We've got the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are playing the Portland Trail Blazers at home. Not even the full iteration of the Trailblazers. They've got some injuries in the backcourt and on the wing, so their rotation is going to be thinned out a little bit. Obviously, we're going to take the Thunder money line. Doesn't really do much for us sitting in there at minus 1,000, but we're also going to take the over at 235.5. I think Oklahoma City should pretty much be able to score at will here. Would not be surprised to see them get to 140, 145 as a team. I think that Shea, Jalen Williams, all these guys are going to have their way with the porous Blazers defense, which means our third leg is going to be Jalen Williams, big Jalen Williams, to record 20 or more points in this game. And then, of course, we are going to take MVP candidate Shea Gilgeous-Alexander to record 30 or more points in this game. This four-leg same-game parlay is going to give us plus 382 odds. Thunder money line over 235.5. Jalen Williams 20 or more points. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander 20 or more points. Good luck tonight, everybody.
All right, appreciate Davis Maddock there. Radio audiences live on a Tuesday night, Sirius XM, channel 159. It's Game Time Decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. Look, busy day in the NBA. We just kind of got into some of the Adrian Griffin stuff. It is not like getting rid of Adrian Griffin is what it is. It's that they're definitely going to bring in Doc. And I just can't imagine anybody having confidence in Doc Rivers still. It's just absolutely stunning to me. He was doing a nice job on the broadcasts as well. Look, there's not a ton of available coaches that have won NBA championships, but Doc's was almost 15 years ago at this point. Consistently underachieving the Clippers, the Sixers. It just feels like such a miss there for me from the Milwaukee Bucks. Getting rid of Adrian Griffin, you want to tap out. You don't feel like the guy's working. The players are turning against him. That's fine, right? You don't want to burn a year of Giannis and Dame. But to go with Doc, I just think that is a wild, wild miss. Now, we saw the Rozier news for Miami. Look, it's an upgrade. It's not earth-shattering, right? But Miami kind of had their chances for earth-shattering trades this summer, and they weren't able to get them done. So they're now in the position that they're in. There was a report today from David McMenamin of ESPN, who is pretty tied into covering the Lakers, that the Lakers are going to be showing interest in Trae Young and Donovan Mitchell, if possible. They'd love the chance to send out their draft capital and some of the kind of current contracts they have to bring those guys in. And I thought that was a really interesting report because if you look right now, Donovan Mitchell really shouldn't be going anywhere. The Cavs have won 8 games in a row. I think the idea, though, on a Donovan Mitchell is probably if the Cavs feel that he's definitely going to go, do they have to worry and trade? But the thing is, he's under contract next season, right? So the Cavs have time with that. I don't think he's going anywhere this year. I think they let this ride out and see how it works. The Trae Young situation could be a little different. The Hawks are abysmal relative to expectations, 18-25 on the season. They are still expected to be a play-in team. If you look at the teams underneath them, Detroit, Washington, and Charlotte in no way should climb up. The Raptors, who sold, still talent on the roster, right? Scotty Barnes, RJ Barrett, IQ, Bruce Brown will get shipped out. And then the Brooklyn Nets, who are going through kind of their own issues there. But maybe the Nets could crack in. Look, the Hawks can still be a play-in team, but they're not going anywhere with that. So could Trae Young be a this-season guy? Maybe, but probably not. But why that feels like a relevant report is if the Lakers believe that it is possible for them to land Trae Young and Donovan Mitchell, which feel like moves that are more likely to happen in the offseason than in season, then that is very likely meaning the Lakers won't be pushing all in at the deadline. And this is just more of the same from this franchise not understanding the situation in front of them. You know, if you right now ask people who is going to win the West, you get people going with the Nuggets as default because they're the defending champs, an injury-riddled trio of either the Clippers or the Suns, or an unproven top two in Minnesota and Oklahoma City. Those are the teams right now that are occupying a lot of the answers for people in the Western Conference. What that sounds like to me is something that you can penetrate. And if you're the Lakers and you sit there right now, and this is a team that has the 9th best odds to win a title for a reason, you look at their odds as we just kind of put it for you there on the TV side of things in the Western Conference. The Lakers still get some respect in the market. Not overwhelming, though. They've jumped by all of those teams plus Dallas. But deciding to pass on a Zach LaVine, maybe even a DeJounte Murray, and just thinking, okay, we can get Bruce Brown, be relatively competitive this year, hope it works, maybe it doesn't, and then we'll swing this offseason. This could be LeBron's last year as a Laker. It very well could. And I guess this is maybe where some of the disagreement comes in, is some people think that means they should be cautious. I think the Lakers should probably try and capitalize on the fact that they still have one of the 10 best players in the league and try and go win a championship. With the way AD's been playing, they might have 2 of the 10 best players in the NBA. It's so stunning the way that they try and go around these things. We're not going to push all in, off-season. What about right now? What about what is right in front of you right here, right now? You know, Lakers tonight go and play the Clippers as a 9.5-point underdog with LeBron out. Issue number 1, right, is that means when you have LeBron in, you're still getting what? 5? From the Clippers, that's a lot. That shows you're not on the level. But that's the swing. Like, if this team had another all-star, which they've never had during this entire LeBron, Anthony Davis run, you could actually go into this game and think, wow, it wouldn't be a miracle if we won. Instead, it's just back under 500. Middling and hoping that, the Jazz will fall off. Don't worry. Don't worry, the Warriors won't figure it out. We'll be a play-in team again. Just accepting the fate. Very, very odd. Very odd. Been doing it for a while now, though. Just kind of how the Lakers are ran. We'll get into the rest of the slate next with Coach James Young right here. It's Game Time Decisions.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
One of the best games of the year, Warren, on Sunday night as the Chiefs are now headed back to a 6th championship game. An extremely fun, clean game, and then the hijinks ensue.
And I thought it was just irresponsible for him to take that deep shot into the end zone. I talked a lot about it on X. I thought that they should have hit that underneath route to Diggs. He was wide open. It would have been easily a first down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with one touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy
The early line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Pharrell,
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
I
decisions.
have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took 'em
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports
That
Rage
was
Late
competitive.
Night.
We waited for the 1.5. We got paid
We
for
did.
information. Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Back right here at Sports Grid. It's Game Time Decisions with Kevin Walsh. I'm joined by Coach James Young. JY, let's get into the picks here. Let's finish up the college because there's only one remaining, 8:30. Creighton, Xavier, what are you looking for in this game?
I'm looking at Ryan Kalkbrenner, the 7-1 center, to go over 18.5 points. I watched him on Saturday, and when you have a team like Creighton that can shoot the ball the way they can, that high ball screen becomes dangerous because the way you have to dive him down. So while Alexander and Shireman get a lot of love from the three-point line, I think Kalkbrenner, who's gone over 3 of his last 5 games, missed one by the hook, is starting to play better and playing the way that we thought Kalkbrenner could play. I know he's averaging 16.5, but that big performance Casino last week sold me. Ryan Kalkbrenner, over 18.5 points.
All right, and let's now get over to the NBA selections here tonight. At the Barclays Center, the Knicks make the quick trip to try and cover a road spread. Do you think they will?
I think they will. I just think this is a Brooklyn Nets team that's struggling. I think the Knicks schedule is going to start to tighten up and get tough. I do think they have Denver next, if I'm not mistaken. So the Knicks are in a big spot here on the road, minus 3.5. I'm going to take the Knicks minus the points. And I'm also going to go with Josh Hart, over 6.5 rebounds. This is a play that's gone over his last 2 times. Josh Hart should play significant minutes tonight because 13 in the last game, I should say. The fact that Mitchell Robinson's out, Hartenstein's out tonight. Jericho Sims is in the starting lineup. Don't sleep with Jericho Sims. Over rebounding prop is 5.5. I think you can get there. We'll see more Precious Achiuwa. You may see Randall at the 5 a little bit. Undersized net team. I look for Josh Hart, one of the best rebounding guards, over 6.5 rebounds tonight.
The one thing that jumped out for me from their last box score, Coach, was the amount of Precious Achiuwa seemingly cutting big time into the Isaiah Hartenstein minutes. Do you think that is something that could stick?
Well, you got to remember also that Hartenstein was bothered by an ankle injury. He was questioned before the game. And if I'm not mistaken, middle of the third quarter, he came out, didn't go back in. That's why he's not playing tonight. But Precious Achiuwa is he is a capable backup big man, would be a third big man. I did find it interesting that they went to Jericho Sims in the starting left side with Tibbs. That could be, folks, because Tibbs wants to keep that second unit. They've done this before. When Robinson first got hurt, they went with Sims in the starting lineup for Hartenstein before Sims got hurt. So just something to keep in mind here. But Precious Achiuwa playing better for the Knicks.
All right, awesome. And then it looks like, why the heck are you betting on DeAndre Ayton?
All aboard the denomination train because it's only 11.5 points, Kato. I mean, God damn, bro. Can you get me 12 points, DeAndre Ayton? And DeAndre Ayton, folks, who has, listen, let's be honest here, at 11.5 points, has gone over 4 of his last 5 games. He did say today, I'm a max player guy. What do I need from a max player? 12 points. DeAndre, please, God. Denomination tonight. They get their tails kicked, but he gives me 12 points. Give me DeAndre Ayton over 11.5 points and OKC minus the points. They win big.
All right, Coach, let's get into this Terry Rozier deal here. Look, for Miami, it's an upgrade. How much of an upgrade? How do you feel about this move?
Well, definitely it's an upgrade offensively because we know that Scary Terry can score, and it makes for an interesting backcourt. I think my concern with Miami is he that kind of defender that would excel with Spoelstra, the rest of the year? It makes them better, yes. Are they better than Boston? No. Are they better than the Sixers? No. Are they better than Milwaukee? If it's Doc Rivers, absolutely they're better than the Bucks because of the fact of Spo. Are they better than the Knicks? I don't know. So it makes them better, but I still think there's another move that they have to make. I would look for a backup big for them, and because I think they could use someone to back up Bam in the playoffs because Bam does get worn down.
Yeah, I mean, they can add pieces around it, JY. I think, look, Rozier is an upgrade. Rozier has games in him that Lowry just doesn't anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, if you set it at, and they won't, over, under a half of a 30-point game for Terry Rozier in the playoffs, love the over. He will have a 30-point game in the playoffs. So that is something that they didn't have prior. He's not going to defensively be a guy, but he can be better, right? Also, for Terry, look, here's the deal. He's going from a much better situation. I mean, that's losing basketball that he was playing in Charlotte for a long time, right? I mean, this is a guy that was part of big legitimate runs with the Boston Celtics. This is no stranger to the postseason here. But what I think it is, and this is where Miami gets so interesting to evaluate, Coach, and we haven't had, so it's so interesting with like the LeBron teams. We'd be like, don't worry about the regular season. We get there and you kind of figure it out. But LeBron teams never were like this low down the standing, and also you're talking about the greatest player in the history of basketball, right? The Miami Heat, well, I mean, obviously, right? We don't want to, what's wrong? What's the matter? You want to?
What? You're not putting Kevin Durant in the GOAT conversation now? You leave it like.
Oh my gosh, this guy. I mean, you know what's great? He's like, I don't understand. Tell you what, brother. We'll clear out one of JY's hits, and you come on to Game Time Decisions, and I'll explain it to you. Okay? If you're unsure.
Jordan's the greatest of all time, but okay. But the second greatest player of all time is LeBron James, but that's okay. As you were. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, no. Everyone, LeBron, Kareem, Shaq, and then we'll figure it out from there. But hey, what did I tell you about that? Stop calling for help, man. Stop calling for help. All right? This is how I know. I start playing. I call JY out for an ISO. Next thing you know, he's calling for help. I got nothing. I got no answers down here. I got no answers down here for the big man. I give JY a couple head fakes. Send him flying. I know he averaged 2.4 blocks per game. Why do we keep taking JY solo?
Because I look good.
Explain that to me.
Kevin, I think it's put the glasses on. Oh, look at the glasses.
Explain that.
All
right, go ahead. All right, go ahead, host it. What do you got?
Listen. Hey,
what do you got?
Look, we coaches plays. Obviously, we like the Knicks minus the points on the road because I just think the Nets are in trouble. OKC,
I got to figure out dinner. Go ahead.
Terrible. Josh Hart over 6.5 rebounds. I think Josh Hart will play an exceptional role tonight. I think the Knicks win big. DeAndre Ayton. I know. I'm going to take a chance on him. I'm not on the Ayton train yet, but I bought a ticket. I bought a ticket that he gets the job done. But listen, Kato, the most important thing is this.
No, don't tell me to listen. I'm not listening.
No. I want to ask you this. right?
Okay.
Do you really think they're going to hire Doc Rivers? I mean, do
let
you
me make this
think
very
they're
clear.
that
Let me make this very
dumb?
clear. He is already hired.
Oh my
Let me make
God!
this very
that's
clear.
What is their
Let me
team
make this
win
very,
total
very
under?
clear.
What's their team win total under?
No. You're reroute. You're going the wrong direction. Because he can win games in the regular season.
Yeah.
Just let it. That'll be. Because also they're going to get a bump. They're all going to be happier now. No, vibes are going to be good in Milwaukee, JY. Vibes are going to be good in Milwaukee. And then the next thing you know, they're down 1-0 to the Pacers. Like, oh, well, hold on. If you're the Knicks, you have to want that matchup, man. You have to want that matchup if you're the Knicks. But it's not going to work out. Seeding's not going to work out for them.
You never know. I mean, probably no, because they're going to be two. The Knicks have to be the 7, which is possible. But I'll tell you this: the fact that they're going to hire Doc Rivers shows the negligence of that franchise to think that guy is going to get the job done. I mean, by the way, Darvin Ham.
All right, thank you. Game Time Decisions. We'll be right back here, hosted by Kevin Walsh on the other side.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
One of the best games of the year, Warren, on Sunday night, as the Chiefs are now headed back to a 6th championship game. An extremely fun, clean game, and then the hijinks ensue.
And I thought it was just irresponsible for him to take that deep shot into the end zone. I talked a lot about it on X. I thought that they should have hit that underneath route to Diggs. He was wide open. It would have been easily a first down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in the divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy,
the early line,
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Pharrell,
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game Time Decisions.
I have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live,
Just
prime time.
Yard for a grand slam.
In the bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
Late
better.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid
We
information. Didn't like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
We are live on SportsGrid. I'm Kevin Walsh. It is Game Time Decisions. Now joined for the first time for me here on Game Time, Brady Cannon. Braden, appreciate you stopping by.
Yeah, good to be with you, Kevin. Fun to talk a little golf and maybe a little football with you as well. Thanks for having me.
I want to start it off, though, because the golf begins tomorrow, the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines. And you were telling me they've been doing this now for a few years, just adjusting to the NFL. And I can't give them enough credit because I think there's a lot of sports at times that don't adjust, and they cost themselves some viewership, and I'm sure, then the sports book lose out on some dollars, but knowing that you can kind of be fully focused on this, I'm sure has people excited for the Farmers Insurance this weekend.
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant. And the PGA Tour is really the only league I can think of that has, kind of swallowed their pride and said, we're going to get out of the way of football. This is going to be the third year in a row that they've adjusted the Farmers Insurance Open to a Wednesday through Saturday start, so football can have that championship Sunday all to itself. They don't want to compete with that. And, it was maybe about 5 years ago or so, I want to say, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, I can't recall exactly, that they adjusted their whole schedule to get out of the way of football. As you can, kind of estimate here, golf kind of starts as football's ending, and then golf ends right as football's starting up again. So I think they've done it. It's like we've been yelling at baseball to adjust for decades, right? Golf did it, and I applaud them for it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So let's get into this. Max Homa won this tournament last year. He's 12-1. 3 golfers in front of him, Cantlay, Morikawa, and Xander Schauffele is the favorite at 9-1. They are the only 4 under 20-1. I know that you're starting your card longer than that. I'm just curious that those top-end guys, what is it? Is it the price? What is it that kept you away from the shorter, bigger names at the top of this board?
Well, first of all, I don't always like to land on the defending champ. I mean, it's hard to go back to back. It doesn't happen all that often. Xander Schauffele is a native San Diegan. He went to San Diego State, knows this course like the back of his hand, and actually started his career really struggling here. He used to miss the cut here every year. Now he started to really get it together. I think he had a runner-up finish a couple of years ago, did well at the U.S. Open when John Rahm won it here at Torrey Pines in 2021. So Schauffele is a contender for sure. With that one, it's kind of just price. I mean, if he doesn't win it, you gotta spend a lot of money to swallow a loser there. And with Morikawa, he's been good here in the past, had a top 10 finish here last year, but I think there's some other guys in this field with more history, more current form, what have you, that you can grab at a bigger price. So I went that route. And believe me, Kevin, I'm not scared of playing favorites sometimes. I hit Scotty Scheffler, a couple different times in recent history when he was, 6 or 8-1. Sometimes it's the right play. Sometimes you don't feel it is.
I will tell you quickly, again, for me, outsider golf bettor perspective, I mean this. I love that for day-to-day golf bettors, 9-1, 11-1 is chalk. When like on the outside, you bet the NBA on a regular basis, you don't see dogs at 6-1, right? But again, that's where golf is so appetizing because you can kind of get involved with big numbers. Where does your card for Torrey Pines begin, Brady?
Yeah, Kevin, what you're saying, every 4 days you can cast a lottery ticket, right? Golf betting is so fun that way. I started with Tony Finau, and this guy's got probably the strongest course history in the entire field. He's got a top 15 finish, a top 20 finish, and 5 top 10 finishes, including a runner-up. He started this year out very well. He's played 8 rounds. 7 of them have been in the 60s. He's also really good on the correlated courses. He has a 4th place finish, or rather an 8th place finish at Winged Foot in 2020, a 4th place finish at Harding Park in that same year when they played the PGA Championship there. He's also finished 1st and 2nd at Vedanta Vallarta. So this guy plays big boy golf courses really well and has a real affinity for playing Torrey Pines. Great long iron player, good off the tee, very long hitter. So he obviously has, a good fit for this golf course. And I got him at 28, which is probably the highest price we've seen in a long time on such a horse for this course. And then another guy that has great history here is Harris English, who I took at 50-1. He's got an 8th place finish here, a 14th place finish, a runner-up in 2015. And then also when they had that U.S. Open here in 2021, he finished 3rd. And this guy's done tremendously well on some of the other correlated courses as well. Corrales Punta Cana and Quail Hollow, where they play the Wells Fargo. He's at a top 5 at both of those. And I mentioned Winged Foot back in New York when DeChambeau won the U.S. Open there. Harris English was 3rd there as well. So this guy checks a lot of boxes as far as being a horse for the course. Then I went a little deeper to Nikolai Højgaard at 50-1. This is his first time playing here, so that's a little bit of risky business taking on a debutant. But I couldn't look past the fact that he has been so hot. He's a great fit for this golf course. He hits the ball a long way. This is a monster golf course, Kevin. It's almost 7,800 yards. Nikolai Højgaard, one of the longest hitters in the field, and he's been on fire on the DP World Tour since November, playing over in Europe. He's got a 7th, a 25th, a 1st, and a 2nd place finish. So he's hot right now. I couldn't ignore that. The guy that hasn't been so hot for a couple of years is Shane Lowry. But I took a chance with him at 70-1. He seems to play difficult golf courses really, really well. Of course, he is a major champion, having won the British Open a few years ago. But if you look at the courses he finished top 20 at last year, a down year for him, and he still finished top 20 at the Genesis Invitational at Riviera, the Honda Classic, the Masters, the PGA Championship, the Memorial, the U.S. Open, and the Genesis Scottish Open. Also 14th on tour last year in total driving, a combination of accuracy and distance, which I think is really important here at Torrey Pines. And then 3 real long shots here. Adam Svensson at 90-1. This guy got a win, his first win on tour a couple of years ago. He's really been improving ever since. The short game, the iron game, the long game. I think he's got a chance to contend. And then even a little deeper into the triple digits. It's been nothing but triple digit winners so far this season. So I took a shot with Ben Griffin. He is really not the typical player you would think that would do well at Torrey Pines, a big hitter, that type of thing. But he finished 31st here in his first ever try last year, and he's off to a really hot start this year, finishing 9th last week and 30th the week before at the Sony Open. I'm not necessarily going to say he's going to win it, but I think he can get into that top 20 on the weekend. And if you're in that position, you've got a shot. And then finally at 130-1, a big hitting Canadian, Taylor Pendrith, finished 16th here last year, has done really well on especially long courses like Vedanta in Mexico, like Corrales, Punta Cana, and also Winged Foot, what we've talked about in 2020. Taylor Pendrith was 23rd at that U.S. Open. So that rounds out the card for me. Started with 28-1, ended with 130-1, a mixed bag, if you will.
Look, I love it. 7 different guys there, varying price ranges. My question for you, and if we get cut on some of the football, we'll talk later in the week. We'll figure it out. But I do want to ask you before this all tees off here. How do you handle, okay, I like Finau. I got to play him top 20, top 5, top 10, Pendrith top 20. How do you approach these 7 guys inside those finishing position markets?
Great question, Kevin. And this is good for the listeners and the viewers. I probably risk the lowest amount of money in the outright market. That's somewhat of a needle in a haystack. So these are some of my lowest risk wagers. I will bet 2.5 times on these same guys to finish top 20. Now, obviously, the odds are lower, but you've got a heck of a lot better chance of them finishing somewhere between 1 and 20 than you do just that one lone spot as the tournament winner. So I will risk more on the finish position. I'll take these same guys that I bet outright, bet more on them for top 20. And then, the bet that I'll risk the most on, where you have the best chance of winning, are the head-to-head matchups. And I actually did play one head-to-head matchup, and that was Adam Svensson as a plus 120 dog over Keith Mitchell. I found just one matchup this week, but that was the one I landed on, Adam Svensson as a plus 120 dog to beat Keith Mitchell.
I was telling you about during the break. There are so many markets. It is incredible. It is the Super Bowl every single week.
Yeah,
like we get to the Super Bowl, we go, wow, look at all this. You get to a golf tournament, and you're like, hold on a minute, how is there all this stuff there?
Miles and miles of
remarkable,
prop bets, and the top Asian and the top European and the top former champion. I mean, it's golf betting is wild. Yeah. And you talked about it briefly before we came on. It really got another shot in the arm when we were going through COVID because there was nothing else to do except for golf and UFC. But I mean, golf betting has been really surging for over 10 years now.
Yeah. Oh, and by the time, and I'll tell you, because people sometimes like to bet the big events, all the sports books step up when it comes time for any of the majors. Boosts and people, this, people like the boost. People like the different things that they can get involved in, and there's always a lot of conversation around it, and we'll keep that conversation going. Again, I know we didn't get to the football, but it's Tuesday. We got a lot of time. Brady, Cat, and I appreciate it. We'll do it again soon.
Great being with you, Kevin. Have a good one.
All right, great stuff there. Joe Ranieri is going to step in next for us here, get some of his thoughts on the college slate for tonight, some of the stuff we're already seeing and some of the stuff to come. Game time decisions on a Tuesday night.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
One of the best games of the year, Warren, on Sunday night as the Chiefs are now headed back to a sixth championship game, an extremely fun, clean game, and then the hijinks ensue.
And I thought it was just irresponsible for him to take that deep shot into the end zone. I talked a lot about it on X. I thought that they should have hit that underneath route to Diggs. He was wide open. It would have been easily a first down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with one touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman Trophy,
the early line,
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon. Not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Pharrell, coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time decisions.
I have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
in-game live,
just
prime time.
Yard for a grand slam.
In the bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
that was
late
good
night.
We waited for the 1.5. We got paid.
We
did like the 2.5. Jumped on.
There's no taking weeks off in golf betting ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Live on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh now joined again by Joe Ranieri. Joe, appreciate it. Stopping by for a little bit here on a Tuesday night. How are we? I imagine you're involved in a couple of places already.
Yeah, no, looking forward to a few of the games here tonight, late night. My Oklahoma State Cowboys taking on TCU at Gallagher-Iba, I think, coming up at 9 o'clock Eastern. And a big one out in the Mountain West with Air Force and UNLV. And there's an awful lot of people I know that love Air Force here tonight, getting 11 and a half. So we're going to have to see how that all plays out.
I have to imagine that is tough for you. I mean this with respect to all of the people you know. But I think you probably, the people that you know who bet, you respect. But you're also someone, if you hear too many people on the same thing, you go, well, that's not good. That's probably a tough needle to thread, I have to imagine, for Joe Ranieri.
That is not good at all. And it is never good when, everyone seems to be convinced on one side, and we know how that happens. It doesn't often work out well. So, yes, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yes. You mentioned your Oklahoma State Cowboys. The Big 12, very interesting. Very, very interesting so far because they have now been given what seems to be the unanimous label of best conference in college basketball, which it's probably the Big Ten's fault, but I actually never think is a good thing because what happens is they just beat each other up a bunch. And they all get credit for it. None of them get knocked, right? It's like, oh, well, Houston has a couple losses against the two best teams that were on their schedule. Well, yeah, but they were great losses. I don't, if you look, and again, Ken Pom right now has literally half of the Big 12 inside the top 25.
Yep.
Is that possible?
Well, we've always known that it was going to be the conference to beat. We always knew that they had from top to bottom, especially with the additions of Houston and BYU. And you get some of these teams from the American Athletic now that have transferred over. Cincinnati. I mean, these are not pushovers, but you also have two worlds colliding. You have the blue bloods of the Kansases, right? And Baylor and Texas. But you also have NIL now, and you have transfer portals. And I don't think it's a great thing, and I think it's going to get worse because I think what you're seeing now, I mean, how many times Kansas losing twice within 3 weeks? Like Arizona losing games? Like, wait a minute. What in the world is going on here? And just in this game tonight, TCU, Jamie Dixon, one of the best college basketball coaches in the world. And he's he's 2-3 in league play already. So there's a lot of mediocrity. I don't think Kansas is as good as what they have been in the past. And I think this is going to be extremely interesting come March Madness here.
Yeah, Arizona's going to be this ridiculous. Man, the football stuff is going to really look so weird.
It's going to be nuts. Yeah.
Oh, it's going to look so weird. So that is, I know it's a way out of season conversation, but that is what's going to make the Big Ten college football so interesting is if one of those power programs has 4 losses, you're going to look at it and be like, of course it's 4 losses. Look at the schedule. How that translates to the college football playoff, to your point, right? Yes, Kansas has far more losses than they usually would at this point in the year, but it doesn't matter. They're going to the tournament. Like, you can already put in half the Big 12 in the tournament. We know that they're fine in that regard. Okay, maybe their seeding gets a little messed up, right? Like, that's the sacrifice that Houston took by going to the Big 12 is that instead of penciling them in for a top 2 seed, it might be a tougher fight to get it, even if they're on that track. But college football, again, I know this is a way out of season conversation point to make, but I don't know how the Big Ten's going to handle 4 or 5 loss Penn State.
It's coming. There's no way around it. I mean, we're seeing it already here in college hoops just early on. There's not a lot separating, the teams, let's say, in the top 3 or 4 versus the teams that are in the bottom 3 or 4. There's just not. I mean, there are conferences right now where you're going any given night. Yeah, good luck. There are no real super teams. It's usually very chalky March Madness. We get that. But I think with the way it's set up now and the different alignment and the schools and the losses they're sustaining during the season now, yeah, it does something to the psyche of these kids who very well might have already convinced themselves, to hell with this, I'm out of here. What are you sitting me for? Because we're losing, I'm out of here. I'm leaving next year anyway. See you later. I'm going to get more money. Changes the whole game.
I think that's one of the things. I'm fortunate that some of I'd made 4 preseason bets, Joe, for the title odds, and they're doing well. I don't need to buy people down with them. The numbers are all different, but I think it's one of those things where you're going to get to that tournament and you're just going to hope you got value on the tickets you put in because, yeah, Purdue's plus 750, but who the heck cares, right?
Yep.
UConn's 10-1. Like, I usually like to bet, and I probably will depending on how things break, but they're going to give us that bracket. I might let the round of 64 play out. And I know I'm going to lose a lot of value, but it is one of those things where, and they usually set these, right, Joe? Like total of 1 and 2 seeds to be knocked off in the first round.
Yep.
You might get 2 this year, of those 8 teams eliminated in the round of 64. That wouldn't stun with what college basketball has delivered so far.
Absolutely correct. I mean, usually there's that one bracket that gets a little wonky, about 2 or 3 games into it. It blows everybody up, and you're going, who saw the 11 seed here? FAU did that. But I think you're going to have more than one bracket here, just simply because I don't believe there is that much, the ability to be able to transfer on a dime now, coaches switching, a lot of uncertainty and not a lot of coaching going on. I mean, how are you supposed to keep a team together when you've already got guys hitting the transfer portal? Like, what kind of coaching are you doing exactly, guys? What exactly is going on here when you already know 4 of the starters are leaving by the time the season ends here? I don't think it's for the better of college basketball. Let's put it that way.
Well, I think, though, it's one of those things, Joe, honestly, the cream from the coaching angle has to rise to the crop. Look, that's where Dabo, and I know Clemson figured it out at the back. I know I'm doing a lot of college football, but they kind of go through it first.
It's the same.
Dabo's very stubborn, right? And you go, well, that's not good. It's not going to help if the coach in charge is like, oh, this isn't for me. Then all his kids are going to go. But the coaches that embrace it, look, you want to know how Harbaugh ended up at a national championship? Because before they made NIL legals, he was riding around in cars and music videos with the kids he was trying to recruit. And Harbaugh thrived. So, people were like, hey, you think Kentucky's going to fall off? Well, Cal has his deepest team in half a decade all of a sudden in Lexington. I know they're trailing at South Carolina right now, but, I mean, look, again, get in line. Ranked team trailing on the road. Who cares? It doesn't even matter anymore, basically, at this point. If anything, the win for Kentucky is they were actually favored in the game, which just shows the books respect them. So, again, it makes college basketball super, super interesting. Joe, NBA-wise, it's a lighter board tonight, only 5 games. Anything piquing your interest?
I took the Jazz and the points here tonight, coming off a couple of losses there. I mean, this is a team since December, this, Walsh, that has been an absolute ATM machine against the money. In fact, they lost to this New Orleans team back on the 28th of December, and they have been phenomenal over the last couple of years. I love their coach. I think he's going to have a long future in the NBA, but over the last couple of seasons, they are undefeated in those revenge spots like this here tonight. I think the market's undervaluing them. And the way they shoot the 3, I got no problem taking as many points as you want to give me tonight with the Jazz on the road in a bounce back spot here against I think is an overrated Pelicans team.
I think it's a really interesting spot. I would lean your direction as well. It's one of these things, this hot run, there's been a lot of home games, but to be fair to them, the road games, Boston, it sounds like a joke. Boston, Philly, Milwaukee, and then they just covered at Houston in a loss on a 2.5 point line, which is very, very impressive. So this is a great bar. The number does look a bit tall there. I wonder if the books are just like, ooh, road Utah, way different. I think we're going to find out tonight. Curious, for me, I don't know if you are yet invested in any NBA futures, but as long as you're not invested in the Bucks, I think today is a good day. And it is not because I thought Adrian Griffin is the head coach, and it is not because I think they're going to collapse. In fact, this is a talented basketball team that is going to be happier for the next 3 months. You should actually bet on the Bucks for the remainder of the regular season. It is that they are going to hire Doc, and anybody who watches the NBA for the last decade, Joe, is well aware of how this movie ends.
Yes, correct. And there's money to be made by waiting for Doc Rivers to hit the playoffs with the Milwaukee Bucks, because I promise you, it will not end well for Milwaukee, which I think is hilarious that, it's amazing how they threw this guy under the bus. Somehow it's his fault that Dame Lillard doesn't play any defense, and they're shocked that by trading the one defensive clog that they had, they sent him into Boston. They let him walk out in Holiday, but you literally formed this team with the idea that you were going to have to score 135, 40 points a night because you're not going to get any defense. And they're somehow blaming Adrian Griffin, I think, is hilarious. And how Doc Rivers is going to make that any better? Exactly what are the lineup changes you're going to make in order to get more defense here? Because if you don't play any, I'll tell you what, you're still going to lose to Indiana at some point down the road.
It is. It's such a weird thing. I am not here to say Adrian Griffin was doing an excellent job. I don't mind a championship or bust team doing something drastic. However, when you go, man, we can't defend. Well, that was kind of the expectation the second they made the Dame trade.
Exactly.
We kind of knew. Like, if their offense, Joe, was 9th, I'd be like, listen, come on. They have the second best offense in the league. The whole idea is that this team gets to the playoffs and the offense is unreliable. And a lot of people have been saying, well, hold on, what about what the Cavs did with David Blatt? Blatt was given a year and a half.
That's correct.
Griffin was given a half.
That's correct.
Griffin was given a half.
Now, I'll tell you right now, it's going to work out. They're now, with Rozier in Miami, they're now going to lose to Miami in the playoffs again, and they're all going to wonder where it went wrong. But enjoy the offseason, trying to figure it all out. But Doc Rivers is not the answer. They got to look in the mirror there in Milwaukee, because they're eventually going to lose to Miami again.
Look, I still have deep ties to Heat Twitter. You would have thought they won the title today, and I don't blame them. There's Rozier news followed by Doc going. And by the way, for people that, hey, wait, did the Doc news get official? It's official. Okay? He's the Bucks head coach. Joe, you're the best. Appreciate it. We'll talk more. Best bet on the other side.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
best games of the year, Warren, on Sunday night as the Chiefs are now headed back to a sixth championship game. An extremely fun, clean game, and then the hijinks ensue.
And I thought it was just irresponsible for him to take that deep shot into the end zone. I talked a lot about it on X. I thought that they should have hit that underneath route to Diggs. He was wide open. It would have been easily a first down.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Some refer to him as a game manager, Mark. I mean, throwing for over 250 yards in divisional round, 39 attempts. I don't know if that really chalks up to being a game manager. He was kind of throwing it around with one touchdown, no interceptions. Pretty efficient.
Whatever we saw from Jared Goff in 2 home playoff games, I would expect something dynamically different from what we're going to see from him on the road. That's just the way it's been his entire career. His home road splits have always been pretty dynamic.
Football Full Circle, only on SportsGrid. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network.
We'll look at the Heisman
The early line.
and what it all means. Individual success.
You should have tried to get something for Anthony Rendon, not bought at the deadline.
Newswire.
We're getting a lot of news, trades, cuts, and some movement in terms of starting quarterbacks,
Pharrell
backup quarterbacks.
coast to coast.
I want to watch great players make buckets and win games.
Game time
You
decisions.
have no idea what the heck the Blazers are doing and what they
In-game live.
Just
Prime
took him
time.
yard for a grand slam.
The bottom of the 4th inning in a 12-2 baseball game. We got football scores going on at Wrigley right now.
Sports Rage
That was
Late
competitive.
Night.
We waited for 1.5. We got paid
We
for
did.
information. Did like the 2.5. Jumped on
There's
it.
no taking weeks off in golf betting, ever. These are the best weeks to bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's been a great day. It's been a great night. Game time decisions. Where else would you want to be? I can't imagine. I cannot imagine anywhere else. In-game live is up next, so make sure you stay tuned right here on the grid. Let's get you best bet. College basketball style. Trevin Neal of BYU averaging 12.7 points per game with a 9.5 points prop. Why? Well, he picked up an injury, came back against Texas Tech, and only played 17 minutes. Went 2 of 4 from 3. That was 2 of 4 from the field, and only scored 6 points. That's fine. I get it. They're playing Houston. Those minutes come back up. If he plays 25, he'll give us about 12 tonight. If he plays closer to 32 minutes, which is what he was averaging around in Big 12 play, we can get 15, 16, 18 out of Neal tonight. One of the best shooters in all of college basketball, shooting nearly 50% from threes in home games. It's a big spot tonight against the Cougs, and he steps up. But another college prop that I like truly as much as this one here is Desmond Cloud of Xavier and his over 22.5 PRA. This is a guy who has been on an absolute tear in his last 4 games, averaging 30 points, rebounds, plus assists. 2 of those 4 games coming up against the top defense in Providence and maybe the top team in the country in the UConn Huskies. We've also seen him only really miss this once against a great defense, and that is the Houston Cougars. And in that game, he had 21 PRA, despite shooting 3 of 13 from the field, 0 of 5 from 3, and missing 4 free throws. This is a great spot tonight for Cloud. It's a great spot as well for Neal. Other NBA stuff coming up is the over in Thunder Blazers at 233. And Anthony Davis tonight, over 27.5 points for the Lakers in their game against the Clippers. What a night it's been. Game time decisions. Everything you like. Hockey, golf, basketball. I mean, what else do you need? There was some football in there somewhere, right? Sure. Game time decisions. I'm Kevin Walsh. See you Thursday. Good luck.